Good evening. It was the shock announcement that left many parents worried about exactly where their children will go to school this week. The state of the concrete in many school buildings means that many classes, and in some cases whole schools, can't return as normal from the summer holidays. Well, today the blame was directed at the government after ministers apparently halved the school budget to fix them in 2021. The pressure from that backlash was clearly too much for some ministers to deal with, as Anila Dami reports.
Parents at the Ellen Wilkinson School for Girls in Acton were told 2 days ago that parts of the building have the dangerous reinforced autoclaved aerated concrete, or RAAC, but it's opened its gates as the school term starts.
I have received an email. Obviously, it was just like a day or two before the start of the year, but at least the school informed us, and they said they're going to do everything that the classes are not affected.
If I'd known sooner, maybe I would have contacted the school and just had some more feedback on why they would close the canteen and what's exactly happening with the school.
And will you be sending your daughter tomorrow?
I'll see. I'll speak to her.
They tell us some of those parts include the canteen, the gym and the science building. This school remains open, though, saying that it is safe for the 1,400 girls that study here. It's one of more than 100 schools in England affected by RAAC, a weak form of concrete used to build schools from the 1950s to 1994. But Labour have been pushing for a full list of schools to be published, and the government's come under criticism for informing schools to close as the summer holidays end. The pressure visibly mounting on the Education Secretary, caught at the end of an interview saying this.
Does anyone ever say, you know what, you've done a good job because everyone else has sat on their ass and done nothing? No signs of that, no?
In the interview, she said the responsible bodies have to take responsibility, and she stated the government's going above and beyond to offer supplementary support. And she later apologised for the language used.
I'd like to apologise for my choice language. You know, it is frustrating because we're doing everything now to take a leading position, to be on the front foot, to put all of the support in place that responsible bodies and schools need.
The government says they'll be funding the costs associated with RAAC repairs and that they'll be publishing a full list of affected schools this week. But they say not all schools have returned to the risk assessment surveys they sent out in 2022 and that the problem could be in the hundreds, leaving parents and children wondering if they'll be next to get an email saying their school's at risk of closure.
But the problem doesn't just stop at schools, though, does it?
No, there are other public buildings that have RAAC. We know that Harrow Crown Court has closed because of it. And today, the Victims Commissioner said that this is a really serious issue.
I mean, this is a critical problem. We're obviously hearing about the impact that it's having on schools, but it's also happened to impact courts as well. We know that prisons are impacted and potentially hospitals. So government needs to get an urgent grip on this. And in relation to the work that I do, you know, victims and witnesses have waited many years to get into court. To have a big Crown Court like Harrow closed and for those victims to have their justice disrupted even more is actually going to risk justice. We may see victims withdrawing if they don't get into court swiftly enough.
And Charlene, tonight we've learnt that 3 schools in Tower Hamlets are affected by RAAC, but the council says there'll be no closures as the affected areas will be safely cordoned off while investigations take place. Head teachers of 3 affected schools that haven't yet been named are informing pupils and parents of the issues and the next steps involved. And the council says all schools in Tower Hamlets will still open this week for all pupils for the start of the new school year.
OK.